Hello, Internet. Happy Valentine's Day. Hope you're ready for the Valentine's Day special that I got here for you today. It's a weird kind of love story. There's a love story in here. It's more towards the end, but there's a love story in it. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about John Carpenter's Vampires, a movie that you've either seen and enjoy it or seen and fucking hated it. It's really about all I've ever seen. There never really seems to be an in-between. It's really how people seem to fall with it. I enjoy it. I grew up with it. It was one of my Grandpa Digi's favorite horror movies, so anytime it was on, you always had to watch it with him. But anyway, before we get into that, as always, thank you, W Energy, for going ahead and sponsoring us here at the Oddcast. We appreciate everything that you do. And you can help show us support by going over to W and using the code on screen, Oddcast, and save yourself a little extra money on top of the deals that they have going on all the freaking time. So just go do it. Go do it. Also, go listen to our podcast, What an Oddcast. Just throw it here in the beginning because, man, I enjoy doing that show as long as I have, and I would love it if you would go give us a listen and have a good laugh with us. Anywho, going into this movie, boy, what a movie this is. There are some things that are pretty dated as far as dialogue. But I still enjoy this movie because it's more of a unique vampire movie than a lot of other things. Because, you have Lost Boys that did its own unique thing, and then there's also this movie that did more of a unique thing instead of just, there's vampires, blah, blah, blah. This one also does its own little thing. So this movie, we have a ragtag, roughneck group of vampire hunters, and it opens up with them busting in the doors on a den of vampires. Just a rundown farm home that has some vampires in it. But they have a bunch of rules, and I wish other movies had rules that they also followed. It would make me having to reiterate rules a little bit easier. But one of the rules is that you never hunt at night. You always have to do it by the day because that's the easiest way to do things. But in this cast, goddamn, you got your leader, who's played by James Woods, and he's Jack Crow. You got Daniel Baldwin as Anthony Montoya. We also have returning Mark Boone Jr. As Catlin, who you might remember from our Frankenfish episode. This time he's a hunter who actually kind of knows what he's doing, but he's also not gonna have a great time in this movie either. But, we'll get to that actually very quickly. He's kind of has a bad time pretty early on in this movie. But yeah, they're in here, they're hunting down vampires. I think at the end of this opening segment, I think they kill 9.
Montoya, we got a fish! Go! Go!
Go for Montoya.
And we're losing him! Hey, reload!
Safety on, boss. Got it.
Clear! Clear!
Oh, Lord.
It's also it's fun doing this movie because, again, just the rules, and I love it when movies have their own rules. So, they all have different things of, you don't do this, don't do that, and do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, they finish up with hunting down the vamps here, and as I said, they get about 9. They're looking for the master vampire, the one who's been making all the goons, as they call them. And man, does that term mean something completely different in the modern age. Could you? Oh, just a bunch of vampires fucking jerking it, and then you just walk in there like, damn it, they're a bunch of goons! Anyway... but they don't find the master, and they head out after killing all that they have. Night's rolling in, so they get a motel, and they're all just having a party, having a great time. Everyone's doing fine. And we see that the master ends up rising from his slumber. And, man, talk about a party crasher. one's dead. He's like the first one to get got in this. He gets gutted just right off the gate. So as I said, Mark, he's not going to have a good time in this movie either. He didn't get eaten by a fish, and he had an on-screen death. He gets gutted and then split in half. So, not a good time for him again. And, also, leave it to Mr. Silver. That's right, the Silver from Cobra Kai. Mr. Thomas Ian Griffith. He is our vampire master in this movie. So, leave it to him to be another dude who just doesn't know how to have a fun time. But Jack and Montoya end up escaping, and Jack takes a woman that he was spending the night with because she got bit earlier on. And as much as Montoya tries to argue that she's going to become a vampire, what the fuck are you doing? Jack explains to him, hey, she'll have a psychic link to him for the next couple, 48 hours or so. So, we can use it like a personal surveillance camera to see what he's doing and maybe figure out how this guy is finding us because he knew me by name. He called me out as Jack Crow, and that's not normal. He shouldn't know who the hell I am. But anyway, they try to make their way out, and, they kind of crash their truck because a tractor gets left in the road, and they end up hightailing it to the nearest little town, and they carjack some poor dude who's getting gas. Poor fucking guy. And then Jack stops back at the motel as they take off because he's going to bury the team. But Montoya argues with him, rule number 7, never bury a team alone. But Jack points out that he's been doing this a hell of a lot longer and he can handle burying some dead bodies. Nobody's going to be turning just yet because it's not nighttime, so fuck it. So we get a whole montage of him decapitating and piercing everyone through the heart with a stake, and then burns down the fucking motel while Montoya goes and grabs his Jeep that they had stashed away. And Jack himself takes their little armored truck. But then the next day, we see that Jack returns to the Vatican chapter where all his bosses are, and he reports on what happened. And we get introduced to our other main character, Father Adam Goudier. Well, Jack's informed that the master, his name's Valak, and he was once a priest who sinned against the church, and because he was doing some unsanctioned things that didn't agree with the church. He was burned at the stake, but he didn't die. And turns out he was the very first vampire and has been spreading the curse ever since.
The portrait, it was painted in 1340. The subject's name was Valak, Jan Valak, born in Prague, 1311. He was a priest who turned against the church and led the Bohemian peasants in an uprising, actually capturing several small towns. Valak was captured. He was tried for heresy and burned at the stake. But after his death, there were reports that he was seen walking at night. It was said he killed the living to drink their blood. They opened his grave, and it was found empty. It's the first known case of vampirism.
Yeah, so needless to say, Jack's pretty pissed to find out, I've been fighting the vampire master, son of a bitch. And they're all you need to report back to Monterey and get a new team, Jack. And Jack's all fuck you, fuck that, I'm gonna go do my own thing. So Father Goudier sent with him, and they're hey, make sure he stays out of trouble and he does what the hell he's supposed to. There's rules to follow. And then at a motel, Montoya and Katrina, who is the woman, her name's Katrina, but she's been taken back, and Montoya explains to her why she's being held captive. Hey, you were bit by a vampire, and we're using you to hunt down the thing that bit you. Sucks to be you, because if you turn, we're going to have to kill you. So, real great way to wake up out of a fucking a daze as to, what a great time she's having. But anyway, back with Jack and the father, Father Goudier. He's giving him a history lesson about Jack's life, basically, about his father turned into a vampire, killed his mother, and then Jack killed him, and that he's always wanted to hunt down vampires and got involved with the church because of it. But then Jack gets real irritated by all the shit he's saying and ends up fucking kicking the shit out of him and being who the fuck set us up? Because clearly someone set us up because the master knew about us and came hunting after us. So what the fuck, dude? But he doesn't get any answers, so, they just hop back in the truck and then they just keep talking. And Jack shows him a map about all the encounters that have happened and shows him that it's a spiral pattern, so clearly it's they've been looking for something and that there's a rumor about a special relic that possibly he's been looking for. But they're not entirely sure. But meanwhile, we get back to the hotel, and Katrina's having visions of the master killing a bunch of people at a small church. And, it's just real great time there. She tries to get away because she doesn't want to be a fucking captive. Understandable. But Montoya ends up pulling her back in, and she bites his arm because he gets cut on the window, pulling her back into the room, and then he bitch slaps the hell out of her. Real great. But anyway, Jack ends up meeting back up with him, tells him, like, hey, we got to go back to Monterey and get a new team. Montoya's all like, really? We're going to do that, Jack? And Jack's like, fuck no. We're going to go hunt the fucking thing because we have this chick. So, we have a direct link to where he is. Fuck that. We're not doing that. And Father Goudier's like, well, I'm going to have to call the cardinal and we're going to have a meeting about this. And he just ends up telling him, like, you don't do shit unless you ask me first. And we're not doing that. You wanted to be hunting vampires, then you're going to help us hunt vampires, bitch. Like, this is what we do. Fuck all that shit. My team's dead, and I'm getting goddamn revenge. Then we cut over, and we see that Valak's talking to a priest that he spared out of the church. And Katrina starts getting a vision, and they see that he's pointing. They find out that he's learning about something on a map, and they're not entirely sure what. And they find that he's outside San Miguel, so Father Goudier does end up calling, but it's to figure out what churches they have in that area. Then they get there and they realize, like, oh, this is the priest he murdered. Why would he be doing that? Bunch of stuff on that one. But later that evening, Katrina starts getting another vision. The Valak has gathered a bunch of other master vampires, because they're stronger, and that they're going to go attack a small old church. So Jack says, you know what, fuck this. Father Goudier is not being the most straightforward. Clearly he knows something, because when we went to the church, he knew something was up. And begins to just torture the shit out of him, to where Father Goudier finally cracks and says that Valak is looking for the relic of the cross of Versailles. And it's a cross that was used to burn Valak, and Father Goudier reveals that he had come to also find the cross with the cardinal, but they weren't able to get a hold of the priest that Valak found first, but that they wanted to bring it back to the Vatican, and that it was the one that was used in an old reverse exorcism ritual that made Valak the vampire that he is.
After his trial, the church declared Valak was possessed by demons. He was taken to a small town in the south of France called Versailles. The exorcism was performed using an ancient, forbidden form of the ceremony. It was long and very brutal. And then something went wrong. The accounts are confused, but they refer to an inverse exorcism. The body is destroyed, but the possessed soul remains. The exorcism transformed Valak into a creature whose body is dead, but lives on.
Vampire.
A vampire.
But, they use Katrina to track down, because she can kind of sense where he is, so they drive off towards where they figure that church was. And Katrina leads him right to the church, but everyone's dead and the cross is gone, because of course he found it. And, things are just not going great. But then all of a sudden Montoya wants to keep Katrina safe after we had seen that he just knocked her the fuck out the night before. But now Jack making comments makes him mad. Starting to get feelings for her, maybe because he was bitten. So when Jack starts talking about, like, I'll kill you, you bitch. I'll kill you, you bitch. Like, maybe it kind of rubs him the wrong way, realizing, like, fuck, he's going to do that to me in about 48 hours. Like, son of a bitch. Funny how turning into the thing you hate makes you change heart. But anyway, the father does reveal that Valak intends to finish the ritual that he had started, because it was never fully complete with the reverse exorcism, and that if he does, he'll be able to walk during the daylight, which is something he's been trying to do this entire time. So they hook Katrina back up into the Jeep, and they're like, fucking lead us to where he is, goddammit. We need to stop this shit. They get to a small town, and they realize that everyone in the town's gone, and that Valak has been slowly making the entire town his little minion army, which is a problem. And Montoya's like, great, it's just the two of us. We're never gonna fucking kill all these. Like, this is a goddamn army. And then Father Goudier gets prepped up and joins in on the slaughter and hunting. But of course, things don't go quite as they planned, and they don't quite get to kill everyone, and they don't find Valak, so Montoya ends up reminding Jack of the rules as the sun's going down of, can't kill a master at night. But as they start to head out, Valak does show up, and things go great. other than he has a giant army that no one can stop, and Jack gets the shit kicked out of him.
Fuck off!
So yeah, Jack gets captured by Valak, and Father Goudier runs off and hides, Montoya drives off, but Katrina gets free when Montoya drives off, and Montoya's gonna have more issues now. Yeah, poor guy. Not having a great week. So Valak gets himself ready for his ritual, and behind him, oh no, it's Cardinal Alba, the fucking dude who was telling Jack he had to report back to Monterey. Well, turns out that he made a deal with Valak to become a vampire, and because in my age I question my religion, and I needed something with better answers. So Jack responds to that greatly by calling him a pile of dog shit, because hey man, we've been hunting these fucking things, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why? But yeah, so Katrina ends up returning, and then the father ends up basically telling Jack, hey man, we need your blood. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to be here because we need the blood of the hunter to complete the ritual as the sun rises. And Katrina returns and breaks Jack's heart because he knows, Montoya's dead. But back at the Jeep, we do see that Montoya isn't quite dead, and he plans to help as much as he can before he starts to turn. But Cardinal Alba, gets things ready, and they start doing the ritual. But then Father Goudier from the bar he's hiding in grabs his shotgun and he says, you know what? Fuck that. I've been betrayed by my entire order. I'm gonna fucking help this.
Now what are you gonna do, Valak? You got nobody to complete your ritual! The sun's starting to rise!
You will finish the ritual.
Try and make me! Out of my Padre, fuck with him! Hey, Valak. You shit out of...
And just as things look bad for Jack, Montoya ends up driving in his Jeep all bandaged up, and he pulls a rescue because he shoots a crossbow and fucking pulls Jack down. And they get Jack rescued, and they all start fighting back. Because, Cardinal's dead, they can't do the ritual anyway, now that Jack's free. So then they just start killing fucking vampires. And, Jack and Valak end up having their final fight, and Jack uses the cross against him, and sends him back to fucking hell where he belongs.
Yeah. You can't kill me.
so everything's all as well as what started not so well, but things turned around. You know, they killed a ton of vampires, and now Valak's dead, so they don't have to worry about that bullshit. But in the aftermath, Montoya, who had kind of gone to deal with Katrina, we see that he didn't deal with Katrina, he just has her locked up in the armored van, and he's gonna head out. But there are rules. You know, you gotta, if your partner gets bitten, you gotta kill him. Basically, basically they're just like, you had 2 days, so you're gonna have 2-day head start, but then I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna kill you.
Rule number 1. If your partner is ever bitten by a vampire, never, ever let him live. Padre.
I'm not a slayer anymore, Jack. Besides, the way I figure it, the two of you got plenty to do cleaning the rest of them out.
Meanwhile, she hides in the back of the van, out of the sunlight, while you make for the border. Try to catch it by nightfall, is that it?
I need a vacation, Jack.
When did she first bite you?
2 days ago. I still covered your ass.
Yes, you did. So I'd say I owe you 2 days back.
Love conquers all. Montoya loves that woman, and he's gonna try to have the best life that he can with that woman. But yeah, so they let him get the head start, and then Father Goudier and Jack, they just start killing off the other vampires that they didn't get to before. Now that the sun's up, and that's the end of that movie. Happy Valentine's Day to you all. In the end, love will conquer all, even if you get turned into a vampire by a woman who you kind of hated at first, but then she's kind of cute, so then you decide, you know what, fuck it, let's be vampires together. Love conquers all. Or some shit like that. Always remember, folks, we never gene splice animals, don't bring animals back from the dead, don't bury dead people under the road, stay out of the water, don't dump chemicals in the water, and if your partner gets bitten by a vampire, kill him, unless he falls in love, and then let him get a 2-day head start. Until next time, stay odd, stay happy, I'll see you next week, and stay safe out there, everyone. You never know who you're taking into bed.